Alright guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the ASL YouTube channel. Today we are doing the Season 18 post-draft rankings, and today I am joined with Shadow.
Hey y'all.
Yeah, we did this last year, so we're going to do it again. Moving straight on into my roster, which was the first one in the draft.
So yeah, I saw you had first pick, and I think Shin Pao was a really good first pick. I overall quite like this roster. I think you've got a good balance of speed tiers. I think you've got good removal. Uh, the offensive Chen Pao, Infinite, which can go either way. Zapdos, which can go offensive. I think this hits really hard. Um, the removal is also kind of nice. I don't know if I love the lower tier pick of Mascarin, and even for that matter, Executor. I don't really know what they bring to the team. But I think you've done well to cover all types. I think you've done well to just make sure you have a decent team. My one critique of it is that you're rock weak and your only rock type position is Iron Threads, which dials to Earthquake, which again a lot of rock types have. So that's one of the issues. Obviously, your types are a little wonky in that you've got I think 3 flying types. But other than that, I thought this was a solid roster. I thought the offense hit hard. I thought the defensive bulk is there. Removal seemed alright. So yeah, I give it an A minus. I'm a little surprised everyone gave it a little lower than that.
Yeah, I think at least in the chat, whenever Hutch and Dravos were talking about my roster, I think they kind of hit it on the head whenever they said that Iron Treads is kind of pulling a lot of the weight defensively.
Yep.
Me
Mm.
not having another steel type it's basically putting a lot of pressure on Iron Tread, so it kind of forces it to come every week, I feel like. Um, but yeah, as far as Executor goes, I don't want to reveal too much what I have in store for that, but it has its place definitely for what I want to do with it. And Masquerade was mostly because I just wanted the Quiver Dance with Sticky Web shit. So
That's fair. I don't imagine either Mons are going to come a lot. I don't know. Maybe you do have something going with Executor that will. I mean, I do roughly know what it might involve, but I'm not going to say it as well. Uh, I already mentioned it. Uh,
But yeah,
but yeah.
I know I definitely struggled with the C tier picks. I didn't really particularly want to draft Florges and Dragalge, but trying to find a dragon type that I could make fit well was proving difficult, so I ended up going with Dragalge.
I think Dragology suits this team again, depending on I know knowing your playstyle. I think it could do well, and it's gonna hit like a nuke when you get it going.
Yeah.
You
All
want to
right.
talk about your Terra captains as well?
Oh
I
shit.
don't see them
Let me
listed
go
on
back.
here.
Yeah, Terra captains. I chose Golisopod as a free Terra captain, and I chose Swellow as
Good hit.
Terra normal. Swellow hitting with Boom Burst is freaking amazing. So just making that go up with Terra normal is fantastic. And Golisopod, even though it doesn't have access to Terra Blast, having it as a free Terra captain, as shown by Lille last season, was really nice. Um,
Yeah.
it's always like I always hated Golisopod purely because of its ability emergency exit. But I just feel like being able to tear into anything just makes it that much better because it gets rid of those weaknesses it doesn't really like.
For sure, and like I think it has 2 really good priority moves, which with the right Terra can hit a lot harder even. So it's gonna be difficult predicting whether they're gonna be Charge Band, Terra Water, Aqua Jet versus Terra Bug in first impression.
Yeah.
Alright, do we move?
All right. Moving on to Komala's draft here. It has an average rating of C, and basically what I was looking at with this roster is that um, it has a lot of type weaknesses with Fairy, um, and it's also very spammable with Ghost type. His only Ghost immunity is Megalopony, which is very frail. I've kind of noticed that as a trend with a lot of the rosters this season, is a lot of them are very ghost spammable. I would like this team to have like a little bit more breakers on it because he's kind of just the only one that kind of breaks is he's relying on Fluttermane and Megalopony every time.
Yeah, I can see that, and I feel like yes, it's true, but also I feel like Megalopony is one of the best physical breakers there is. I would think. Uh, Same goes for main and like especially. we talked about how spammable ghost is here. I think the most offensive or the best offensive ghost type in the game right now. So those shadow balls are definitely gonna hurt. The other one I want to point out is Samurai Hisui. I think its stat may not look like a breaker, but with like sharpness, choice band, seamless edge, that thing can hit and that thing can hurt quite a lot. So I think on that front he might actually be fine. My issue with this was more to do with again the low tier picks. Like this is the second draft in a row where I don't really like Executor in the bottom half. Uh,
I don't remember the last time both executors were ever drafted, let alone a single one of them.
right. Uh, yeah, but I think another thing like Shackle, it's a niche one. If it comes, I'm gonna try and get whatever my setup mon is on it and just set up because I feel like it struggles with that. Um, and that has removal. I don't particularly love because Rotom Heat can run removal, but you're gonna run boots on it to do that. Um, Tiger almost always runs removal, but do you really want to bring a Gligar every week? Um, and then yeah, I guess Whimsicott could do it, Cryogonal could do it, but neither of them particularly loves to.
Hmm.
Or if they do, they need to run boots. So he has options. He doesn't have elite removal, I would say. And yeah, again, I don't love his low tier picks. Also, you obviously talked about typing, and I think in a way, almost Rotom Heat does kind of a lot of stuff on this roster, like Treads does for you.
Yeah.
And it not having reliable recovery kind of makes it a bad pick for me as a defensive pivot.
Yeah, I can see that. Another thing to bring up is his Terra captains he chose as Haxorus with Terra Steel and
Hmm.
Executor with Free Terra. I personally would like Executor with Free Terra more if it did have access to Dragon Dance. Its only setup moves are Curse and I think Swords Dance, I believe. And it doesn't
Right.
have access to Terra Blast either, so it looks like that's mainly going to be a defensive Terra, not really offensive
Yeah, I
unless
was
he
gonna
goes Terra Dragon.
say. I do think you're right. I think he's gonna go defensive more often than not. It's probably gonna be like a Terra Steel or something,
Hmm.
where he can just, I don't know, take up hits, lead stuff away. Um, but yeah, I do like Haxorus as Terra Steel. I think that's a great Terra captain and could be a pain to deal with.
Yeah, especially with it having resistance to Fairy now.
Right. Does it get Terra Blast? It does not, right?
I can check really quick.
Yeah, I mean, even without it, I think
It
it
does.
gets like Iron Head. Oh, it gets Terra Blast?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, so it's gonna be really nice to, be able to hit the fairies with Terra Blast. I think it also gets Iron Head anyway.
Yeah, it gets Iron Head.
But yeah, I think that's gonna be a threat.
Definitely.
I would have liked this team to be a little bit more specially spread as well, though. Anywho, we're on to Lechonk. And yeah, this was an interesting one. I mean, I think I like his type flip start out, but he's got one of each type, always good to see. Uh, and the top half of that team is really scary. I played this team week one, and I won't really give too many spoilers. But Melmetal, Cleaver, Latias, I think those are all mons that hit quite hard and are difficult to, deal with. Melmetal and Latias in particular, you can't even kill in one shot. I think to some extent Sableye also does that. But beyond that, I think his lower tiers aren't the best. Floatzel with Terra Water, I think his Floatzel's Terra free, but it's almost always going to be Terra Water, and that thing hurts. Similarly, Arcanine Terra Grass was such a pain to prep for. I wasn't sure what exactly to do with it. But once you look past those two, Mudsail kind of alright. Weezing Gather, I like them all, but it does have its downsides. Kangaskhan, Crabominal, Sceptile, they're all average picks. That combined with the fact that he doesn't have any spinners, and so my strategy going into week one was, well, for a small bit, was to find Bravery and force him defog. I don't think I actually went down that route, but I'm sure that could be an option for other coaches. So I guess not having a spinner, not having like Turrex, I think I'm gonna hold that against him, and that's kind of why I have a B.
Yeah. I think something that his roster really lacks is more pivot. He only has 3 mons that can pivot, being Tornadus, or I mean Thunderous,
Two,
Cleaver, and
yeah.
Arcanine with Teleport.
Others. Oh right,
Um,
yeah.
Arcanine with Terra Grass, it does force you to prep for that.
Hmm.
Which Arcanine with Terra Grass is really good because it has Flash Fire. Um, and I think he can really take advantage of that if he decides to stick with Terra Grass. But mainly the reason why I put this so low, it's not low, but B minus specifically, is for the fact that I think he really does need more pivot. He does have reliable rockers with both Mudsdale and Cleavor. Cleavor's I forgot what that move's called, but it sets rocks when he hits
Stone
things. But yeah,
Axe,
Stone
yeah,
Axe.
it's a very good move, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the best hazard setting move in the game. Specifically, like besides like maybe Ceaseless Edge, but I like Stone Axe because it's rocks.
I think the other thing with this team that really stood out is he doesn't have a lot of speed. I know his top one is Sceptile, but how often is that coming?
Mm-hmm.
Floatl's there, but Floatl, I mean, as good as it is, and like Wave Crash Floatl is a threat. But when I was speed creeping stuff for his build, was able to get my fastest mon to just speed creep Thundurus as well because I thought Latias would be fat, which it kind of always is.
Yeah.
Floatl wasn't really the best matchup for a bit, and Sceptile, I mean, no one really prepped for Sceptile. So when you actually look at it, the speed, I think it looks more like it's a slow team, particularly how low his speed goes with Melmetal and Sableye. Um, I don't think he has any Trick Room settles. Am I right in saying that?
I should have put that on the room.
Right.
I'm not
That's fair.
sure. I think maybe Wheezing gets it.
I think Wheeling might get it, but it's an interesting one. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this could work as a Trick Room team, but then I would have liked to see something, slower than a Latias or Thundurus to start out with on the top.
Wheezing does not get it.
So, never mind then. But yeah, I think that's kind of why it's at a B for me. It was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't awful. And it is still a threat to prep for. So,
Yeah, I don't think he
you
does
want to
get
go
Trick
with
Room on
yours?
anything.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, next one. St. Louis Skitty with Malone. Great to have Malone back. Oh, I forgot to mention another thing with LeChonk's team. It's also ghost spammable. That's another
Oh,
the
right.
part of the
Yes, yes.
trend. Yeah, I don't know why that's a trend this season, but there's a lot of teams that are very weak against ghost spam.
Well, no one drafted Garganacl. That's why.
All right, moving on to Malone. It's fantastic to have Malone back. I'm very happy that Malone is back in the ASL. Um, I really like Malone's team. He has a lot of type coverage defensively. Um, I think something that I don't particularly like are his steel types, but he does have 3 of them, so he's not putting all the weight on a single one, so that's kind of nice. He has a lot of hazards, so you never really know what's going to bring rocks or spikes. His pivot is good. His removal is fantastic, and I think he's mostly checked all of the boxes here. The only thing that I would like is maybe having something that has more speed than Roaring Moon at 119.
Right. That's fair. I think my issue is kind of on the opposite spectrum, where I know you said he has 3 steel types. Um, I think there are 3 similar steel types in terms of weaknesses as well, in that they're all weak to fighting, they're all weak to fire.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think, like, I don't mind double steel when one of them like a Skarmory and the other one's, I don't know, a grounded steel that somehow resists electric or something. But I think his steel types share a lot of common weaknesses, which isn't great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, also Earthworm does not get any recovery, I believe, apart from obviously its ability, which is really nice. Um, Sandslash does not get recovery, and Dark Trio again is not going to come a whole lot. So, in terms of, yeah, I agree with your point of, defensive steals, what are you going to do about it? But also his fighting switches on this one, and that was what I was looking at with his 3 steals. Uh, he doesn't have a lot of switches fighting. Oricorio doesn't really want to come a whole lot. Zoroark, which I mean, you won't want to switch in, and like if you switch in, you're gonna it kind of wastes its ability when you switch it into a fighting move almost. Um, and then yeah, he does have Slowking and Sylveon, but I feel like between a good fighting move and then coverage for those two, you're gonna have the right sweeper to beat Malone. I do like his Terra Captain though, and I don't know if you want to talk about that a bit. But I
Yeah,
think Oricorio. Oh, go ahead.
He decided to choose Terra Ground for Sylveon, and Oricorio with free Terra is really scary. Uh,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, I think doesn't Revelation Dance work based on his type? So isn't it like a Terra Blast but better?
what was that?
I said, doesn't Revelation Dance change type based on the Oricore's type?
Yeah, but he can
Yeah,
also
so it,
change his Terra type as well and do Terra Blast.
right. So, oh, I was going to say that isn't Revelation Dance kind of like Terra Blast in that sense?
Pretty
Like
much.
if he goes Oricorio Grass, for example, he could stay Oricorio Fire for the first 3 turns and use Revelation Dance as the fire move, and then Terra into Grass and use Revelation Dance as the grass move thereon. And I feel like that's a really cool gimmick. I don't know if that works like I expected to, but it could be a fun one, and I kind of want to see what he does with that. And Sylveon Ground is interesting. It could work. I don't really know what the purpose for picking it ground there was, but we shall see.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at Revelation Dance because I didn't really think about that interaction before. Yeah, type varies based on user's primary type. I would have to test that and
Yeah,
see if it works that way, but that honestly would be really cool if it
yeah,
does.
we might want to test that, but I do think that could be a really cool mechanic because that way you've got two very different types of moves in terms of like typing on one mon with one slot. So they're gonna both gonna be stabbed no matter what because it's gonna change with your type. So I think it could be fun. I don't know if that works as I expected to. I suppose
Yeah.
maybe Malone should do that and save it for after he plays me. But
Right. Moving on, it's you. Um, I guess I'll
um,
talk about your team real quick
yeah,
because it's your team. So
right.
looking you drafted all the types, and I really like the amount of pivot that you have. Um, I do see that there was like a big drop in speed between Dragapult and Lycanroc, but
Right.
I mean, you still have things that are above. You have three things that are 100 and above. I would have liked to see maybe something around like maybe 120, 115 as well in there,
Right.
just to offset that a little bit. Your hazards are really good. The only thing that I'm really seeing on your team is you're fairly ground weak minus Bravery.
Yeah, I mean, so I actually was tempted to put my team a little higher even before I read Travis's commands. But I, yeah, I think my whole plan going into the draft was I want Lycanroc Dusk as my Terra Captain. And the one thing that Mon needs is like a good way to get on the field because it's frail. So that's kind of why I have as many pivots. I think there's what, 4 U-turners, 3 teleport users, 1 volt switcher, and I think there's no overlap. So there's like 8 out of my 12 Mons can pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Which yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, and I think I use that well in the first game. I'm sure it's going up after I play Trevor, so I'm going to use it well in the second game as well. Uh, but yeah, that said, I like the pivoting part of it. I think there's good pivots, and I like my bulk. I think between Slowbro, Clefable, and Scizor, I think that's a fairly good bulky action. Um, so that's the part I do like about this, and I think between Bravery and Rock, those are two very good Terra captains, and I think Bravos also mentioned that. The other thing I want to point out, I like my priority. I don't know if we've looked at this a lot in other drafts, but between like Scizor having Bullet Punch, Delhi having Ice Shard, um, I think Lycanroc having Excel Rock, and then Serena just having Protection from priority on the other side. I think that like even though my speed tier between 142 and 110 is gap, I think the priority I have kind of almost makes up for it. So I'm not too worried on that front. Issue, yes, I am ground weak. I don't really have a lot of answers to ground, and my one ground immunity also just happens to be my, Terra Captain, so it may not even be a ground immunity most weeks. And that's, I think, the one reason I think my draft's a little lower, and then my E tier picks, I guess, Magmar and Arbok aren't the best ones there.
Yeah, there's a few different fire types you could have picked. Why did you specifically decide to pick Magmar?
So I had some reasoning on the Magmar pick. I think with Eviler it can be a little bulky, but also again it does get teleport, which could be useful. Um, And then I thought it had like a good move pool slash move coverage. And again, because it's going up after Dravos, we'll actually see if it did its work in week 2. But I do have a Magmar carrying a lot of my team against Dravos in week 2.
Yeah.
We shall see if it worked out. It almost certainly won't.
Imagine it just gets his whole team just Magmar sweeping
Well,
it.
I mean, he has a Moltres that goes Terra, Fire, Burn Up. I can't see my Magmar to help with that. Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see what you can do with regular Braviary though, instead of Hisuian Braviary.
yeah. hmm
That's gonna be kind of a different thing this season.
Right, and then give it a free Terra type instead of locking it in the ground like my Hisuian one was. I feel like there could be some potential.
Yeah.
I think I just have like a dilemma between do I go for the Braviary sweep and make that my Terra captain, or do I go for the Lycanroc sweep, the mod that I actually wanted to use so much this season, and make use that as my Terra captain in the game.
All
But
right.
it should be fun. I feel like it would be hard to prep for. Sum
Yep.
it up.
Next is the Bronx Population Bombers with BGC.
Is that what BGC stand? Wait, no, that's not how it works. Uh, yep, that would be BPB. I just thought BGC might stand for Bronx. That doesn't work.
Does not work.
Yep. Alright, yeah, I can talk about it. Uh, I think his roster is good. His typing is very lopsided, so or his typings are very lopsided. So I think that's where the issues kind of lie. He is rock weak in like the largest sense. I think his only rock resistance is Registeel, which, as I mentioned a few times, rock type get ground moves, and my Lycan rock is Terra fighting. So I could have fun against him,
Yep.
but I do like his pick of Houndstone. I think that Houndstone in E is a very good mon that can use Fluffy and be fat. Um, I do like his top three of Palafin, Volcarona, Gliscor, I think, and Mega Venusaur for that matter. I think top four. Gliscor, Mega Venusaur is just going to be a paint deal break, and then Palafin, Volcarona hit on the offense. I think would be really nice. Um, yeah, my issue with this team to some extent is his lack of any forms of hazards. Yeah, I think Gliscor runs rocks and Registeel can run rocks, but he's got no Spike, he's got no Toxic Spikes, he's got no webs as such. Um, and he's got no rapid spinner. So it looks like his strategy is always going to be just defogging stuff,
Mm-hmm.
not setting too many hazards of his own. But yeah, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. Looking at his removal as well, he has no spinners, and I
Right.
personally feel like Gliscor is gonna be defaulted into defog most weeks. I
Yep.
don't particularly like running defog on Volcarona, even though it can.
hmm
I think it works better mostly as either a bulky attacker or a sweeper.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I feel like the removal is kind of lackluster in this
Fair.
as well. His defensive core, like you said, with Gliscor, Mega Venusaur, and all of that is really nice, and I think he can use it to make a lot of good use out of Palafin. Um,
Right.
but I do think that like his team is very flying spammable, which is a very good spammable typing. The only thing that resists that is Registeel, and then this is probably the team that has the most ghost immunities with Meloetta and
Right.
Raticate, but it's also ghost spammable.
Eradicate's immune to Ghost?
It's normal dark, I
Oh,
think.
it's normal dark. Huh, I didn't realize that. Okay. It is normal dark. Yeah. Fair enough. But yeah, I think the one thing I'd add to that part is like Gliscor. Is I don't see Volcarona as defog, and I don't think Neuwern's running defog more often than not. I think Gliscor could be the only defogger, but I think that's completely fine when it's a mon like Gliscor. Like that mon almost always runs defog anyway,
Yeah.
and that's a mon that can come every week. Like in theory, having a Gliscor 12 weeks, 13 weeks out of 13 isn't a bad thing. It's a very good mon for what it does. So even though it's probably the only reliable defogger, I think it's more than enough as a reliable defogger. So I'm not too concerned about that in itself. But yes, there's a lot of issues with this team that I do agree with.
All right.
You
Um,
also want to talk about how Neumann goes like Burr with Boom Burst.
Yeah,
And
it just like oh wait, is that oh yeah, he did choose normal Noivern as Boom Burst. So he's basically
yeah,
kind of the same thing I went with
with
Swellow
Swallow,
with Boom
yeah,
Burst.
but it hits harder.
The only thing is that Noivern can't get through normal types with Boom or ghost types with Boom Burst. That's the only thing.
True. True. It does get Flamethrower, Fire Blaster, so
Yeah, Boom Burst does go burr with Noivern.
yep.
Right, moving on
Okay.
to our Detroit Red Cramorants, coached by Wolf Turds. He decided to make a Gen 2 team, apparently.
As Dre was very clearly pointed out.
I didn't even notice until I looked at this and saw Dravos put Gen 2, and I was like, oh, it is a Gen 2 team.
Right.
Even with it being a Gen 2 team, he did try to check all of the boxes. He has a lot of hazards. He has some decent removal. Fortress is always a really good removal tool. I just looking at this, it's kind of like most of the offense is put onto Great Tusk, but you can't really sleep on Azumarill or Raikou in the sense, and also
Right.
Typhlosion. Did he make Typhlosion a Terra Captain? He did not, so he can't use Burn Up Terrifier.
Right.
But
Yeah, he does have Blossom, which is interesting.
yeah, I don't think I've ever seen Blossom come to
I
any draft
did
games.
once consider it as a draft pick and a Terra Captain because it gets Quiver Dance, which is real nice.
It does?
Um, it does get Quiver Dance, yeah, and it's a decent mon, and I feel like I've come close to getting a sweep with it at some point. But that was also pre-Terra when I did actually last use it, so don't get me wrong, it's not gonna come to more than 3 games, I think, whatever. But it could be a scary Terra Captain. I would think Typhlosion might have still been the better pick with just spamming Burn Up.
Yep.
But oh well, I think it's not a bad pick.
Yeah,
As for the rest of his draft, oh, good.
I think the other thing that made me put this as low as I did is because he's only drafted 13 unique types. And I really don't like the fact that he doesn't have a single dragon type.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with that. I think his types are what kind of holds it back a bit.
yeah, that's why. Mainly the types is why I put this on a C minus. But everything else, he tried to check almost all of the boxes. The only other thing would be maybe having another mon above base 100 speed. But
Right.
other than that, I do like it apart from the fact that he only has 13 types.
That's fair. I think it's a little bulky for my liking almost. You're right, and a lot of offense does go out to Great Task, and I think Great Task kind of is trying to do a lot on this team. Um, and in a way, it's nice that he has Kamari and Fortress because Kamari almost always runs Defog, Fortress almost always runs Rapid Spin. So, in between the two, I actually think he doesn't need Great Tusk to run Hazards or Spin, which is nice, and can focus on, being banned or being a sweeper if where needed. That said, his only Rock type resist is Great Tusk. I think his only what else for it? His only Poison type resists are Great Tusk and Crobat and Quailfish, which well, I
uh,
guess Crobat can be a little bulky, but
he has
how
two
often does
poison
Quailfish come in?
immunities. Poison
Oh, he
resists.
does. He does. He does. Sorry, I think I'm looking at the wrong type then. But what am I looking at? Never mind. Let's. But I do think I agree with you. That Great Tusk is doing a lot for this team. Um, he's offensively is still going to have to carry a lot of it. I think Crobat might be offensive some weeks. Um, Umbreon being fairy type's an interesting one. I think it allows him to take the fighting type moves that would have otherwise, not Umbreon wouldn't have liked. I think the same goes for bug moves as well. But I don't know if I don't know if he needed a fairy type Umbreon on this roster. I think that kind of indicates to me that he's going to be offensive Azumarill more than defensive more often than not.
Yeah. Umbreon with Fairy Terra is pretty good defensively. Um, we used it. If you look at the off season, me and Matt decided to use it on
Right,
Umbreon, even though we didn't bring Umbreon at all. But in
right.
theory, Fairy Umbreon is fairly decent.
It does sound good, yeah, but again, I was like when he had so many missing types, I would have liked him to just pick, Terra type into one of those almost as opposed to Fairy. But again, Wolf is a very good coach, so I'm sure you're going to be able to find a way to make it work.
Definitely. Moving on to Hutch.
So yeah, this is one of my favorite drafts. Well, close to one of my favorite drafts on the board this time. He's covered all his types. He's got a good speed tier split. He's got some of the best offense in the game. I think Mega Gallade and Baxcalibur really would hurt. In terms of special, I think Lurkitry is his best special attacker. But yeah, Lurkitry is his best special attacker, and I mean that thing can hit really hard on the special side. But between its like lack of coverage, I think is the only thing I would point out. Uh, Also, yeah, I think as someone mentioned, Baxcalibur loves to click Glaive Rush. That being in misty terrain may not be the best thing. So I don't really know how those two go together. But apart from that, I think it's a very good pick, and I think roster in general is very good.
Yeah. I faced this roster week one, and defensively, it's I really like his team very like defensively. It's very hard to prep for,
Mhm.
especially whenever all you have is a Chien Pao. um,
Right.
but he checked all the boxes. There's no glaring weaknesses that you can see on the type chart. I do like his draft. It's probably going to make better use of Claw Itzer than he was able to last season. Um, the only thing maybe is maybe having another like his pivot could be better. Maybe having one or two more that have U-turn or volt switch.
Right.
Um, that's really only the things that I can say that I don't like about it is just having more pivot. Other than that, it's
That's
a
fair. Yeah,
A
I
tier
think.
roster.
Uh, and remind me, does Crustle get Sands for something?
I can check Crystal real quick.
Yeah, because I mean the other thing, and he's been pointing this out every chance he gets, is that it's a one weather two terrain team, so he could bring Hippowdon Excadrill, and Excadrill would be really deadly. He could bring Tapu Fini and something else that benefits from misty terrain. I I'm pretty sure Cloudler also gets Terrain Pulse, the terrain. I forget what that move's called, but I feel like that's definitely part of Hutch's strategy. Uh,
It does get Trampulse.
yeah, I think he might, because Terrain Pulse would be what grass type when
It
uh,
should be grass type on Arboliva's grassy
grass.
terrain, and it should
Yeah,
be
so
fairy type on Misty.
that basically gives Cloudler two new types of moves. I don't think it gets a grass move naturally. I don't think it gets a fairy move naturally. So two new moves that would be boosted by Mega Launcher. Uh, I think that would be really nice on Cloudler. I think he can really use Cloudler well on this roster.
Yeah. Crustle does not get Sand Force. It's sturdy shell
Okay,
armor and weak armor.
that's fair. But I mean, yeah, he does still have Excadrill Hippowdon, which in itself is real nice.
Yeah, I don't really think there's much else to say about his team. It's really good. Moving on
Yeah,
to
okay.
Sergeant M and the Flaming Arcanine. I put this at a C. His only mon that is above base 100 is Tornadus Therian and Electrode. Electrode's really fast, but you don't really want to bring it every week. Um, his removal could be better. He's kind of relying mostly on Tornadus again. You don't always want to be running Rapid Spin on Tatsugiri because you would like to specs that thing to hit really hard with Draco Meteor. He does have reliable hazard setters with Steelix and Glamora. Um, Steelix is a Steelix, so you kind of know exactly what it's gonna
Right.
do every week. Um, and his pivot also could be a lot better. I would like to see better breakers as well. Um, Mainly you're just seeing like if you look at his team, you're mainly just seeing Galarian Darmanitan it hits really hard on the physical side, but on the special side, he doesn't really have anything that breaks besides maybe a Choice Specs Tatsugiri
Right.
or even Gardevoir. But
Yeah, I was
I,
gonna say I think Gardevoir can actually break her well
it
if built right.
I just look at it and I feel like there's a lot to be desired.
hmm I can see what you're saying. Like the mons by themselves, they seem a little underwhelming to me. But and I did think about putting it lower, but when I did think more about it, I actually feel like it's a good roster. I know Turn and Tatsugiri aren't the best removal, But the thing is, Torn can run Boots Defog fairly often, and with regen, it actually means that Torn's more than happy to come in more often, multiple times a game. And yeah, the 2 or 3 weeks that it doesn't run Defog, Tatsuguri can run Spin. I think maybe one more removal kind of would have been nice, but I think this is a good roster in itself. I think the Manitan is hard to switch into. I think the one of the few monsters that would want to come into it, or I guess more specifically one of the few types that would want to come into it, are Bulky Waters. And I think he's got Shaman, which can check that. He's got Gardevoir, which can deal with that. I do agree. I think Electrode being a better electric type would have probably helped. But I'm excited to see. I think this team works with like I think there's good synergy within the team almost is what I want to say. Even though
Yeah.
the mons by themselves are a little underwhelming in terms of value.
Yeah, something that
But
I helped him draft this team, and he wanted
right,
to mainly focus on choosing mons that he liked within the types that he was able to pick.
that makes sense.
I know Hutch, or it was either Hutch or Dravos, was saying that like his lower tiers could have been better. Like instead of Machoke, he could have picked like Girder or something.
I agree. Yeah.
Um, but like I said, he chose things that he liked, and hopefully, if he likes it better, he can use it better.
Right, that's fair. And I think it could work well. I do like Gardevoir as a free Terra captain. I think that's the one thing that really stands out to me. I think he could do a lot with that mon,
I agree.
and it might end up being the biggest threat on that team.
Yeah, and Tatsugiri with Terra Steel. It's really
Right.
good, especially when you're going against an Iron Bundle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair. Oh yeah, with Stormdrain, I think that's the easiest check to unbundle, I would think.
Yeah.
Right.
Moving on to Blake with the Denver New Mills.
So he's got, and like, I feel Blake's team, when I first looked at it, I was like, this is a very good team. I don't know how to deal with it. Because he's got Nine Tails, he's got Walking Wake, which, I mean, Walking Wake's not broken by any means, but it's a good mon in the sun. Um, I think with Hydra's team, I think with Life Orb or the Dragon Dance set, I think I'd use the Dragon Dance set to get a win. I believe in Crash or PDL, I can't remember what it was, but in one of the leagues, I do remember using a Walking Wake Dragon Dance set, and that actually can catch a lot of people off guard because you just always prep for, Specs Wake or a Special Wake in some form. But Dragon Dance Walking Wake is really nice. Slithering in the sun, first impression, Choice Band is gonna hit like a truck. I don't know how, if anything, we're gonna switch into that because we worried about low kick Starabug last season. I feel like Slithering does that better in the sun. So he's also got Heliolisk and Venusaur, all of which kind of work well in the Sun team. Mega Shark is one of the issues here. I think I don't really know what it's gonna bring to the table. I think he kind of picked it because we talked about it early on and he wanted to. I think there's if he drops that mon for something else, it could be a really nice team. Um, the other issues obviously are with removal. I don't think either of his mons want to run removal. He doesn't have any rapid spinners. Um, yeah, and then like spikes, toxic spikes, sticky webs, none of them really. Like Sneasel can do that. Sneasel's never gonna do that though. So I think he needs better hazard control. But other than that, I think it's a all right team.
Yeah, I put this as a C plus because I really do like his team in Sun. I don't really like it outside of Sun whatsoever if
Yeah, that's
he's not
fair.
able to keep it up. Um, but yeah, you kind of hit every box that I think that's wrong with it. Like you said, the hazards aren't the greatest. He's able to set up stealth rocks pretty reliably with Necrozma, but other than stealth
Right.
rocks, he doesn't really have anything because you're not going to run toxic spikes on Sneasel like 99% of the time.
Yep,
And
that's fair.
basically no removal. You don't really want to run removal on Rotom Frost. You mainly want to run that like Specs or Scarfed. Um,
Right.
every now and then you can do a defensive set with Pain Split, but it's not really the greatest. And Tornadus Incarnate doesn't really like running Defog at all.
Right, it makes sense.
It
I
kind
think.
of
Go ahead.
I kind of feel like in order for his team to do well, he is forced to do Sun every week, and that really makes his team slot like that picks basically 3 of his 6 mons every week is dedicated to Sun.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's fair. I think the one thing I would add is like if he dropped Mega Shark for I don't know either Don Fan or Torkoal, I think this team goes up a grade.
Mm-hmm.
I think he just doesn't have ground type, so adding Don Fan instantly improves that. But it also gives them again more options on rocks and reliable recovery. Not recovery, sorry, reliable removal. So I would think that could be a good fit. Similarly, I think Torkoal because like you said, this team in Sun is very good. Outside of Sun it's pretty bad, but you might as well just double down on the Sun in that case. Get Torkoal to go with Ninetales. Make sure you run Sun every week. And Torkoal can also set rocks in rapid spin. So it addresses two big problems on his roster. I think either of the mons would improve his teams quite significantly.
Yep. I agree. I think, and also looking at this, like I just want to like bring up the ghost spam ability of every single team.
Oh,
I think
right.
this is the
Yep.
least ghost spammable team that I've seen so far. Um,
That's fair.
he has 2 ghost immunities and 2 resists. I just feel like I want to
Uh,
bring that up every time because it seems to be a trend.
I mean, that is a valid point. And I also want to point out that, one of his ghost immunities is Wigglytuff. One of his ghost resists is Sneasel, both are E tiers. So it's not that crazy in itself. Mega Shark, I keep thinking he should drop it. So I don't know how much of a ghost, resist that is either.
It can go away really fast.
It can, yes, yes, on paper it's not ghost spammable, or it's going to be ghost spammable in the game anyway.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's fun.
That's a valid bring up, yep.
All right, moving on to Dravos and the Filling and Blazikens. This is the other team that we rate really highly. It has a lot of depth to it. A lot of people, I don't get why people give Urshifu Rapid a lot of hate. Mainly, it's probably because Urshifu Single Strike is so good, but I think Urshifu Rapid it has its place. And I think utilizing this team really well, it's going to fall a lot on utilizing like Urshifu Rapid Strike really well, and I think he can do that with his capabilities. He has a lot of depth in his hazards. Klefki is a really good spiker. You don't particularly want to run spikes on Masquerada, but you can. And Drudagun is always a reliable stealth rocker. His pivot is really nice. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mons that can use U-turn or Volt Switch. I would like to see maybe a slower U-turner or a teleporter. That's the only thing I can really say about that. And his removal is decent. You can kind of always reliably either run Rapid Spin or Defog because Regieleki really only has a couple moves that it can run.
Right.
No glaring weaknesses that I see either. He has 2 dragon immunities. Alchemy is not the best fairy type. Maybe I would like to see a better one than Alchemy because Klefki, it is a fairy type, but I don't feel like it fits traditional fairy type roles.
Right, that's fair.
Yeah, maybe a better fairy than Alchemy in this team would be better.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. I think even though he has a double fairy, it's not, a traditional fairy. A good one at least. And like when I was building for him, my sanity shock, I could run flash cannon, but I was just going through it and I was like, flash cannon doesn't really hit Klefki, and I really don't care about the alchemy. So in a way, I feel like that's almost like again, he doesn't even have a rock type, so he's not steel weak, and I mean, he's like the opposite of steel weak in that sense. But at the same time, I feel like had he had a better fairy instead of both Klefki and alchemy combined, I'd rate the draft slightly higher.
Yep.
Um, Other thing that stands out is hazards. I know you said you rate the hazards highly. I don't. I think only one stealth rocker is a little tricky. It's a little predictable that Dragon is gonna come. Or if Dragon doesn't come, that you don't have to deal with rocks. Um, Similarly, Miascrada won't run spikes. I mean, he could run spikes, toxic spikes in Miascrada, maybe change types with Protean. But more often than not, neither that's happening. Mark doesn't really come a whole lot. Maybe it will with Dravers, but I think the only potential hazards thing that you need to worry about with this team is Klefki with spikes. And I think there are ways to deal around the Klefki. I know TCP kind of showed us the peak of a Klefki, but I think other than that, it's fairly easy to deal with one. What I do like on his team are his Terra captains. I think he's picked two very good Terra captains. I think Frostmart with Terra is an absolute pain to deal with. Um, I was looking at Unaware Clefable for Frostmart, and he can just go Terra Poison and still do 90%. So
Yeah.
when you know that your E tier can sweep an entire team quite reliably, it's a good pick as a Terra captain. And Moltres point up, we kind of saw what it does in week one. So
Yeah. Something that we haven't really talked about yet is the value of Ursaluna on his team.
oh yeah, for sure.
I feel like this team is going to be able to get into Ursaluna quite reliably.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure exactly what gets Trick Room on his team. I know he has it. I think Dusknoir gets it.
Oh, that's not I'll get. You're right. That's not I'll get Trick Room. And
So
thank
he
you for
does have.
pointing that out. I'm gonna change my prep.
Yeah,
Uh,
he does have Trick Room options with Ursaluna, but even without Trick Room, I think he can still get into it reliably and make it do some work. Um,
right.
Ursaluna is definitely something you don't want to under prep for.
Mm-hmm. Uh, I don't think there's reliable ways to prep properly for Inertial Luna though.
Just get good. That's all you got to do with Ursaluna.
Yeah, you gotta not let him get Trick Room up. Is what you gotta do.
But other
Right.
than that, it's a pretty solid draft.
Mm. All
Going
right.
into the
Susie.
Utah Hoots. Was this
Oh,
me or you? I don't
so
remember.
I don't remember, but I can go. Uh, Until the silence from me. Uh, I like his team in terms of value picks. I think he's got really good value in each tier. Iron Bundle, much as I hate it, is a good pick. Sneasler is probably the best tier B mono on the board. Hydreigon and Corviknight, they're very good as B picks in themselves. Uh, Beyond that, it gets a little wonky. Like I think Miltank and D is still alright. A Galvantula for a D pick, which Web's is real nice. But I don't really know what Wolverine adds to the team. I don't really know what Hypno adds to the team. I don't really see what Delphox is doing there. Landers and Bulu, while good by themselves in the tier, I think kind of almost don't work with each other on this team.
hmm
Um, and he is also rock weak, I believe, quite a bit. Yeah, his only rock type resist is Sneasler, which I mean is not really gonna want to take moves. So he is rock weak, and I think that could be fun. He is ghost spammable. I'll beat you to it on that one. But yeah, apart from that, I don't see too many issues with the team.
Yeah. He's really only going to be running rocks as his only hazards.
Hmm.
Miltank can reliably get that up. As somebody pointed out a couple days ago, Hydreigon also gets rocks as well now. So
I
that's a
saw
thing.
that. Yeah.
But just looking at it, his upper side of his draft is just really freaking scary. Iron Bundle, Sneasler, Hydreigon is always scary, and
Hmm.
even Landers is scary. Um, but yeah, Galvantula, I would have liked to maybe see as an electric Terra Captain, or even free. Like it doesn't get Terra Blast, but it being able to um Terra Electric those thunders is really nice.
Yeah.
Um, I don't really see what he's gonna do with Delphox, so maybe he can show us exactly what he had planned for that with Terra Blast.
Right. Yeah, I think his Terra captains are a little interesting to me. Lando is flying as well. I I don't know what that brings. They'll get Terra Blast for starters.
Well, Landorus doesn't really have that great of flying moves. I think it only really had
Yeah.
fly.
Right, but they'll get Terra Blast. Or
Um, I'm
they'll still have the same
I'm
issue.
pretty sure it does. I'm gonna check it right now. It does. It
Oh, it
does
does.
get Terra
It gets
Blast.
Terra Blast. Okay. All right. So at least that addresses flying type thing, which is not bad. But he also has a Corviknight as a flying type already, which can run Brave Bird and often does run Brave Bird. So quite sure what the Landers is trying to do over there either, but I don't know. Maybe he can show us what the Terra Captain is supposed to do.
Yeah, I think it was mainly just to give him an actual flying type move.
This is fair. You want to move on to Lily? I'll
Yeah,
just make
we'll
a
move
list
on to
ahead.
Lily. We kind of talked about that as far as we can. Lily's
Okay.
team is very interesting to say the least. He has a lot of hazards on one, two, three, four, five, six of his 12 mods.
Right.
Um, his pivot could be a little better. Um, he only has Kilowattrel. What does Grafai do? I don't really know what
Well,
it does.
so I was gonna say Grafia gets Prank's departing shot, which as a pivot is real nice. Um, which means you can always go first with Prankster. It will lower the attack, and you can switch into one of the bulky mons that Lily has quite a bit of, the Arctic defense. Um, so yeah, I think his pivots in that sense are nice. I really thought Grafia as a Terra Captain could be very good because it can either be the Prankster set or it can be Unburden, which with a Terra Captain could be real nice. Um, that's it. I wasn't surprised when he chose the Dunsparce and kind of showed us what that does in week one because I think indeed that's a very good pick. It's impossible to kill and terribly fat, and it also has the serene grace powers that happen.
Yep,
So I think that's a good Terra Captain pick.
I agree. What
Uh,
was the Terra flying on Flygon for?
it's Terra Fire, isn't it?
Yeah, Terrifier.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what that's doing. I think it's to like instead of going quad weak ice, you go resist ice.
Okay.
Um,
He also gets Fire Blast and Fire Punch, I guess, and Heat Wave. So he has ways to make use
so
of it.
he does. Yeah, I'm not quite sure, but I guess Mega Pinscher wasn't gonna be his Terra Captain, so it was either Flygon or pick a D tier. And even though I just said Grafia is good as a Terra Captain, I think Grafia is good as a free Terra Captain. I don't think he would have worked as a selected type. So in a way, yes, I think Flygon was probably still the right pick. I just don't know why Fire the answer there.
Yeah.
Mm,
I think his team's interesting. I don't think it's really good. I don't think it's bad. I think it's
I think it's a B. Yeah, I think it's quite an, as you can see with all of our votes, it's quite middle of the road B.
yeah, it's good.
Hmm. And the final team. So we
Mr.
move
Hunky
on to
Donkey.
the Golden State Arbor Levers. Um, yeah, the first thing I see on this team is Mega Camerupt, which brings back memories from last season. Um, the other thing I see on this team is he is Rock Week, and I'm sure last PR I was going through how Bravery History destroyed every roster. I'm now mentally going through how Lycan Rock Dusk destroyed every roster.
Yep.
Uh, so yeah, he is Grass Week, his resist Hitmonlee and Metagross. Hitmonlee doesn't really want to take hit. In Metagross, he has his Terra Steel Captain, which would then die to Earthquake or Close Combat. So in a way, that's interesting. I think having Cyclizar and Shed Tail would be really nice to then go into either Mega Camerat, which we've seen can be a nuke, or Metagross, which with like Terra Steel Bird Punch is gonna hurt a ton. Like is his removal and his bulk. I think Slowking Togekiss is okay at best. Spiritomb not having reliable recovery kind of doesn't really. I don't see that as a good bulky wall. And coming back to the removal as well, I think Togekiss is one of the removal mons. Venomoth is the other.
Yep.
I don't know how often either of us would want to run Defog. I guess he does also have Cyclizer and Hitmonlee, but they both also don't necessarily love running Spin. Hitmonlee in particular would rather just, I think, sweep. So it's an interesting roster. I think there's mons that can do things. I think there's mons that need to be better.
Yeah,
I think Metagross is going to be the threat.
something that I
Yeah.
think his team would benefit from is another special nuker. He's kind of forcing that on the Mega Camerupt and Darkrai, even though it has 135 special attack. Um,
Right.
I used it and it it's kind of lackluster, I feel like, as an A tier. Even though it's really good as an A tier with being able to hypnosis and bad dreams, everything, but um, it doesn't really have the coverage that you think it should need to hit
Right.
things. I do like Venomoth as a free Terra. It can help him more
For sure.
reliably set
Yeah.
up. But yeah, I think what this team really needs is probably another special breaker on it.
Fair. That
And
makes
then I
sense.
would rate it even just a little bit higher.
That makes sense. Yeah. I feel like the other thing, I don't know if Venomoth gets like sleep powder, or maybe it
It
doesn't get sleep
does.
powder, but yeah, I guess sleep powder is not the best move. I don't know if it gets spore. I don't think it does. But Venomoth, if it can put something to sleep, can also just go into Dark Cry. Or well, if anything on this team can put something to sleep, I think Cloaking also gets hypnosis. Spiritomb gets hypnosis for sure. It can then go into Dark Cry and just get that passive bad dreams going. You don't necessarily need to rely on Dark Cry to run hypnosis, which opens up a slot, which I think could be nice. I don't know
Yep.
if that's going to be relevant throughout the season at all, but it should be fun. I am excited to see Mega Camera run Cyclist, so I think what I learned was Mega Camera can hurt a lot. So now putting it behind a substitute might be real nice.
Yeah, lets it get that free hit basically.
Hmm.
I still don't think I'm ever gonna see anything as good as Lily's usage of Mecha Camera, but
Oh, probably not, but I think this one could be interesting.
yeah, I really do too. All right, and that is it for the draft rankings. That went faster
Mhm.
than I thought it was going to, actually. But yeah,
Surprisingly.
I feel like there's no. I think something that I really like about the season with us changing the draft format, um, or the roster format, is that there's no really bad teams. They all. I think they're all good in their own rights.
Mhm. I think, yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of good teams, a lot of middle of the road teams. Um, I agree. I don't think there's any team I'd point to as being bad. And even the teams that I think are a little bit on the worst side actually happen to have better coaches to go with them, so they'll be equally hard to prep for.
Yep.
Uh, I'm kind of excited to see how the season goes. I do think that the season has well, we have a lot of coaches coming back. We have a lot of coaches coming in for the first time, so it could be an interesting season. Maybe we might have quite a clear top half and bottom half, or we might just have quite a mixed middle zone, which is always fun with multiple people fighting playoffs.
Yep.
I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, same. But I think that's gonna do it for us. Hopefully the season goes really well for everybody, and we'll
But
see how these rosters change over the coming weeks.
yes, if in doubt, trade your whole team away.
Yep.
I pick.
Yep. Now we can do 2 trades every week, so almost unlimited.
Yeah,
All right.
it should
Bye
be fun.
guys.